My teenage daughter was unaware that I was back home when she confided in her friends, calling me a clueless fool and revealing that her mum had been siphoning money from my accounts for years to support her shopping habit, all while I remained oblivious. They were all laughing in the kitchen. I quietly retreated to my home office and didn't say a word. This morning, my phone was bombarded with notifications. Unfortunately, for obvious reasons, names are changed. I never imagined I'd be sharing this on Reddit, but here I am, parked outside Starbucks at 6:42 a.m., unable to bear being in my own house. My hands are still trembling. After 17 years of marriage, I feel like a complete fool. Yesterday, my client meeting got cancelled at the last minute, due to a family emergency or something. I usually work at the office but opted to return home instead. It wasn't a big deal. I've been working from home often enough since COVID. I didn't inform Patricia, my 41-year-old wife, that I'd be returning early because, well, why would I? We don't keep tabs on each other's whereabouts after nearly 2 decades together. I arrived home around 1:30, parked in the garage, and entered through the side door. The house seemed empty, which was expected since Patricia typically attends her Pilates class on Tuesdays, and our 16-year-old daughter, Jessica, should have been at school. However, I heard voices coming from the kitchen. Teenage girl voices. I assumed Jessica had come home early with friends and was about to walk in to greet them when I heard my name. I froze. Jessica was telling her friends how her mom had been pilfering money from my accounts for years to fund her shopping addiction. Her exact words, which I won't forget anytime soon, were that I was a clueless idiot who had no idea, that my wife was essentially robbing me blind, and they all found it amusing, my own daughter laughing at how oblivious her dad is. I stood there paralyzed, unable to process what I was hearing. My mind refused to accept it. Then a wave of nausea hit me, as if someone had punched me in the gut. I had to brace myself against the wall. I couldn't confront them. What could I say? Hey, Jessica, it's fun to hear you mock your dad behind his back. Please tell me more about how your mom is stealing from me. So, I quietly returned to my home office, closed the door, and stared at my computer screen for what felt like hours. Eventually, I heard them leave, probably heading to the mall or somewhere. Jessica clearly had no idea I was home. Once the house was empty, I began to investigate and opened our online banking. There it was, all of it laid bare before me. For years, I had been managing the major bills: mortgage, car payments, insurance, Jessica's school expenses, while Patricia handled groceries and personal expenditures. We had joint accounts as well as separate ones for personal spending. It seemed fair and trusting, but what a joke it turned out to be. Looking back at years of transactions, I noticed a pattern of money constantly being transferred from our joint account to her personal one, mostly small amounts, like $200 here, $350 there, nothing that would raise major alarms. But when I added it up, we were talking thousands each month, and tens of thousands each year. That didn't even include the credit cards. I found 3 I didn't even know existed, all maxed out at around $15K, all in my name. The more I dug, the clearer the red flags became. All those packages arriving, her vague responses about their origin, how defensive she became when questioned about purchases, and those mysterious girls. Weekends that seemed to involve an abundance of shopping bags. Sitting there, scrolling through years of financial betrayal, I felt detached, as if I were watching a movie about someone else's life unraveling, not mine, but it was mine. The anger came later, around 8 p.m, after Jessica and Patricia were both back home, acting as if everything was normal. Patricia made that chicken pasta dish she always prepares on Tuesdays, and Jess complained about her history teacher. I sat there, fork in hand, watching the performance of my wife and daughter, strangers in my home. I wanted to flip the table, scream, and demand answers, but something held me back. Maybe it was self-preservation or some last shred of strategic thinking. I had learned from reading Reddit for years that you don't show your hand too early. So I smiled, made small talk, and pretended everything was fine, all while my insides were churning. After dinner, I locked myself in the bathroom and called Jason, my friend since college who happens to be a lawyer. I told him everything, and he just listened, advising me not to do anything rash, to document everything, take copies and screenshots, and record dates. He offered to help me navigate this situation. I stayed up until 3 a.m., going through everything I could find: credit card statements, bank records, and even found a storage unit receipt in her email. Who needs a secret storage unit except to hide things from their spouse? The real kicker was finding an email thread between Patricia and her sister, where she bragged about diverting funds for our eventual separation, like it was her retirement plan. All along, slowly bleeding me, dry for when she eventually leaves me. 17 years, one child, a mortgage, vacations, holiday cards, anniversary dinners, all part of a long con. I didn't sleep at all. I just lay next to her, listening to her breathe, wondering how many lies had passed through her lips and how many times she had looked me in the eye while stealing from me. At 5:30 a.m., I couldn't take it anymore. I got up, left a note saying I had an early meeting, and drove to Starbucks to start typing this all out, unsure of how to manage the rage inside me. Around 6:30, my phone buzzed with notifications, text messages from Jessica, about 20 in a row, frantic, saying she needed to talk, that she was sorry for not realizing I was home yesterday, that she hadn't meant what she said, and that she needed to explain. So here I am now sitting in my car, betrayed by the two people I trusted most in the world, wondering how I missed this for so long and how I could be such a complete and utter fool. I haven't responded to Jessica yet. I'm unsure what to say. Part of me wants to never return home, just drive away and start anew somewhere else. But that would mean letting Patricia win, wouldn't it? Letting her keep everything she's hoarded over the years? No, that's not happening. I'm not going to just roll over. Not this time. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. TLDR. I overheard my teenage daughter telling her friends that my wife has been stealing money from me for years to fund her shopping addiction. I confirmed it's true and am planning my next move. Update. Hey Reddit, it's been 6 days since my last post. First, thanks for all the awards, DMs, and advice. I never expected this to gain so much attention. Many of you have asked for updates, so here's where things stand. Buckle up, it's a long one. For those just joining, my wife Patricia, 41, has been stealing from our accounts for years to support her shopping habit. I discovered this when I overheard my daughter Jessica, 16, discussing it and laughing about how clueless I am. I met Jessica for lunch that day at Panera, which was awkward beyond description. She was already there when I arrived, staring into her iced coffee as if it contained the answers to the universe. She hadn't bothered with makeup. Her eyes were puffy, and her hair was hastily thrown into a messy bun. Nothing like the confident teenager who had mocked me just 24 hours earlier. As soon as I sat down, she broke into tears, full on, ugly, crying with mascara streaming down her face while people stared at us. I sat there with my untouched sandwich, feeling like the world's biggest fool, even though I was the one who had been wronged. Between sobs, she kept saying she was sorry, that she didn't think it was a big deal at first, that her mum always claimed it was just borrowing and that I owed her for everything she did for our family. She mentioned that she only recently realized the full extent of what was happening and had been too scared to tell me. I let her talk, not sure what to say. My own child had been complicit in this, perhaps not actively stealing, but certainly aware of it, hiding it and laughing about it. When I asked her how long she had known, she said 3 years, since she was 13. She recalled the moment when Patricia instructed her to fetch something from her purse and saw all the credit cards in my name. When she inquired about it, Patricia fed her some nonsense about me being terrible with money and that she was safeguarding our future. By the end of lunch, I felt a strange mix of emotions, pissed at Jessica for keeping this from me, but also protective. She's still my child, only 16, and Patricia had clearly manipulated her, using her as a pawn. I told Jessica I needed her to be honest with me moving forward. No more secrets, no more taking sides. She promised, her eyes still red and puffy, looking sincere, but who knows anymore. Trust isn't exactly my strong suit these days. When we got home, Patricia was acting completely normal, making dinner and asking about our days. The audacity of this woman. I played along, smiled, and made small talk while mentally tallying how much she had stolen from me over the years. That night, while Patricia was asleep, Jessica slipped me a USB drive, explaining that she had secretly been taking photos of receipts, shopping bags, and credit card statements her mom had left lying around. She called it her just-in-case folder. My 16-year-old daughter had better financial sense than I did. The irony wasn't lost on me. I spent the next day setting things in motion. I called my bank at 8:37 a.m. and explained the situation to a poor customer service representative named Kevin, who definitely wasn't paid enough to deal with my marital drama. I flagged all my accounts for suspicious activity, changed all my passwords, and set up 2-factor authentication on everything. Then, I called in sick to work because I couldn't focus anyway. I spent the day documenting every transaction going back 7 years. The totals were far worse than I had anticipated. 73,458. The amount Patricia had diverted from our accounts over the years, not including the maxed out credit cards. I'm talking 6 figures here, folks. 6 figures. And what did she spend it on? I found the storage unit and convinced the manager I had lost my key, technically true since I never had one to begin with. Inside were shopping bags, boxes, and tags still on everything: clothes, shoes, purses, electronics still in their original packaging, and jewelry. It was like a department store. She hadn't even used half of this stuff. She just bought it, hid it, and moved on to the next thing. I called Jason again and spent 2 hours going through my options. He wasn't just being my friend anymore. He was in full lawyer mode, discussing divorce proceedings, asset protection, and evidence collection. He advised me to document everything, legally in our state, with single-party consent. By day 3, I had a plan. I opened a new checking account at a different bank, solely in my name, and started moving money. Not all at once, as Patricia would notice, but gradually enough to protect myself without raising alarms. I changed the direct deposit information for my paychecks, set up automatic transfers for the mortgage and essential bills, and left just enough in our joint account to seem normal. Then I set the trap. I opened a new joint account and moved $112,000 into it, ensuring Patricia received the notification email. I left the login details accidentally visible in my browser history and mentioned casually at dinner that I had received a small bonus at work. I watched her eyes light up. I could almost see the dollar signs. Meanwhile, Jessica was playing double agent, informing me when Patricia planned shopping trips, showing me hidden packages, and forwarding me emails she accidentally received. This kid has a future in espionage, I swear. The waiting was the hardest part. 4 days of pretending everything was fine, making breakfast, watching Netflix together, sleeping next to her, while knowing what she had done for years. Patricia kept dropping hints about wanting to update her wardrobe, or how a friend just got the cutest new bag, testing the waters to see if I'd offer to pay. I just nodded, smiled, and said things like, "Whatever makes you happy, honey." My acting should have earned me an Oscar. Then yesterday happened. I received a notification from the bank about an $8,500 transfer from our new joint account to her personal account while I was at work. No discussion. No heads up, nothing. She took the bait right on schedule. I called Jason immediately, setting everything in motion. He's coming over tomorrow morning with the papers, documentation, and all the evidence. At dinner, I casually suggested we invite her parents over the next day. Kyle and Jennifer hadn't visited in a while, and I thought it would be nice to catch up. Patricia agreed immediately, even offering to make her famous lasagna, the one she prepares when she wants to butter everyone up. Little does she know, this isn't going to be a friendly family dinner. It's going to be her reckoning. Jessica knows what's happening and opted to stay at a friend's house, but she refused, saying she wants to be there. She's done covering for her mom. This kid has more backbone than I realized. So here's where we stand. 12 in cash hidden in my sock. Drawer for an emergency escape fund. Pathetic, I know. Evidence organized, lawyer on standby, in-laws invited, trap set. Tomorrow, Patricia's world comes crashing down, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't looking forward to it. I'll update when I can. Wish me luck, Reddit. I'm going to need it. TL. DR. Confirmed my wife has stolen over $120K from me over the years. My daughter has been helping me gather evidence, and I've set a financial trap that my wife fell for. Confrontation is scheduled for tomorrow with the in-laws present. Final update. Sorry for the radio silence, Reddit. It's been 2 weeks since my last update. 2 crazy weeks. I needed some time to process everything before I could write this. Many of you have been messaging me daily, asking what happened, so here goes. First off, thanks for all the support. I never thought my tumultuous marriage would resonate with so many. Turns out, being financially betrayed by someone you trusted for 17 years is quite relatable. Who knew? So the confrontation, where do I even start? That morning was surreal. I woke up at 5:13 a.m. despite having barely slept 3 hours. Patricia was still asleep, face mask on, completely unaware of the storm heading her way. The cognitive dissonance was wild, watching her sleep peacefully while I had folders of evidence documenting her theft on my laptop. Jason, my lawyer friend, arrived at 10:30 a.m. We sat at the kitchen table, reviewing everything one last time, while Patricia was out grocery shopping, probably buying more stuff to hide. Jessica helped us organize the evidence into a clear timeline. She has serious spreadsheet skills, much better than mine. Kyle and Jennifer, Patricia's parents, arrived around 4 p.m., bringing wine as if this were just another normal family dinner. Patricia hugged them, all smiles with lasagna already in the oven. The normalcy was the creepiest part, like watching someone dig their own grave. While humming a happy tune, Jessica was quiet, fidgeting with her Apple Watch, avoiding eye contact with her mom, who was too busy being the perfect hostess. We engaged in small talk about the weather, Kyle's recent knee surgery, and Jennifer's book club drama, all while I sat there holding nuclear evidence in manila, folders beneath the table. My stomach twisted, not from nerves but from rage. Every smile Patricia gave, every laugh, every casual touch on my arm felt like a fresh slap to the face. Finally, as Patricia was serving the lasagna, I said we needed to discuss something important before we started eating. I laid the folders on the table, and the room grew silent quickly. I started simply stating that I had recently discovered financial discrepancies in our accounts. Patricia immediately displayed a look, not guilt, not fear, but annoyance, as if I were bringing up something trivial. That's when I knew this was going to be worse than I thought. I opened the first folder, showing them bank statements, credit card bills, transfers, storage unit receipts, and the photos Jessica had taken. Everything laid out chronologically. Kyle began turning a strange shade of red. Jennifer kept muttering, "Oh my God," under her breath, and Jessica stared at her plate. Patricia sat there completely still, as if waiting for me to finish so she could explain it all away. Once I finished presenting the evidence, about 20 minutes later, the silence was deafening. Then, unexpectedly, Patricia laughed. She actually laughed, claiming I was making a big deal out of nothing, that every wife borrows from the family finances, and that I was too controlling with money. She insisted she deserved nice things after everything she had done for our family. Kyle lost it, yelling about how they didn't raise her to be a thief. Jennifer was crying silently, and Jessica just kept repeating, "Mom, stop lying," getting louder each time. Patricia's story kept shifting. First it was just borrowing, then it was that I owed her for being a stay-at-home mum when Jessica was little. Then it turned into a medical condition that made her shop, something she had never mentioned in 17 years. Ultimately, she blamed me for not noticing sooner. Yes, it was my fault she had stolen from me. Throughout her explanations, she kept looking at Jessica as if she had been betrayed, calling her ungrateful and a daddy's girl, insisting they had a special agreement that Jessica had no business sharing. That's when Jessica snapped. She pulled out her phone and played a voice memo from 3 days ago. Patricia discussing with her sister the emergency cash hidden at her brother Travis's house, her exit strategy, and how she planned to cash out next year when Jessica went to college. Patricia lunged for the phone, but Jennifer grabbed her arm, and Kyle stood up so quickly that his chair fell backward. I just sat there, oddly calm, witnessing my marriage disintegrate before my eyes. Then I played my trump card, telling Patricia I had already moved most of our money to accounts she couldn't access, that I had consulted a lawyer, and that I had documented everything. I told her that her little $8,500 transfer yesterday was the final nail in her coffin. The look on her face, I wish I had captured it, was pure shock, followed by rage and then a calculating expression I had never seen before. She stormed upstairs, leaving us in awkward silence. She returned 10 minutes later with a suitcase, declaring she was going to her brother's, saying I would regret this and that she would get what she deserved in the divorce. As she was leaving, I added one last thing. I had already contacted her credit card companies and reported fraud, freezing the accounts. That's when it hit her. She no longer had access to money, not mine anyway. After she left, Kyle and Jennifer stayed behind, both crying and apologizing, saying they had no idea. Kyle kept insisting he'd pay me back, which was awkward. I assured them it wasn't their fault, and they didn't need to make amends for their adult daughter's choices. The following days were a blur. I changed the locks, legally questionable, but Jason said it was fine under the circumstances. Patricia kept texting, alternating between threats and desperate pleas. Jessica remained surprisingly calm, expressing relief that everything was finally out in the open. A week later, Patricia's brother Travis showed up, thinking he was there to confront me. Instead, he returned some of the items Patricia had hidden at his place: boxes of unused makeup, clothes with tags, jewelry worth several thousand. He admitted he had no idea where it all came from until now and couldn't, in good conscience, keep it. It's been 2 weeks now. The divorce papers are filed. Patricia is living with her sister, and Jessica has chosen to stay with me. She's in therapy, as being her mum's confidant in financial crimes has clearly affected her. We're emptying the storage unit this weekend, selling what I can, returning items within the return policy, and donating the rest. Jessica asked to keep a silver bracelet she had always admired, which seemed fair. Patricia's parents have surprisingly been supportive. Jennifer brings over dinner occasionally, and Kyle helped fix a leaky faucet I had been ignoring for months. They're trying, and while it's awkward, I appreciate it. As for me, I'm doing okay. Some days I'm angry, others I'm sad, And some days I feel like a complete idiot for not noticing sooner. I deleted my Facebook after tiring of people asking about our once happy family photos. I've started a budgeting spreadsheet that would impress personal finance enthusiasts. I'm sleeping better than I have in years. Strangely enough, Jessica and I are adjusting to our new normal. We're watching Brooklyn 99 together on weeknights. She's teaching me TikTok dances. I'm terrible. And I'm teaching her to drive. She's also terrible. It's not perfect, but it's honest. And after 17 years of lies, honesty feels pretty damn good. So that's it. Reddit, the end of my marriage and the beginning of whatever comes next. TLDR. Confronted my wife about stealing over 120K. With evidence in front of her parents. She tried to lie and then stormed out of our marriage. Divorce is in progress, and my daughter and I are doing okay. Turns out, revenge isn't as sweet as I thought, but freedom from a liar is pretty sweet.